This episode is brought to you by Thorn, and I have some incredible news for any of you that are in the military, first responder, or medical professions. In an effort to give back, Thorn is now offering you an ongoing 35% off each and every one of your purchases of their incredible nutritional solutions. Now, Thorn is the official supplement of CrossFit, the UFC, the Mayo Clinic, the Human Performance Project, and multiple special operations organizations. I myself have used them for several years, and that is why I brought them on as a sponsor. Some of my favorite products they have are their Multivitamin Elite, their Whey Protein, the Super EPA, and then most recently, Cinequil. As a firefighter, a stuntman, and a martial artist, I've had my share of brain trauma and sleep deprivation, and Cinequil is their latest brain health supplement. Now, to qualify for the 35% off, go to thorn.com, thorne.com, click on sign in, and then create a new account. You will see the opportunity to register as a first responder or member of military. When you click on that, it will take you through verification with GovX. You'll simply choose a profession, provide one piece of documentation, and then you are verified for life. From that point onwards, you will continue to receive 35% off through Thorn. Now, for those of you who don't qualify, there is still the 10% off using the code BTS10, Behind the Shield 10, for a one-time purchase. Now, to learn more about Thorn, go to episode 323 of the Behind the Shield podcast with Joel Totoro and Wes Barnett. This episode is sponsored by Newcom, and as many of you know, I only bring sponsors onto this show whose products I truly swear by. Now, we are an overworked and underslept population, especially those of us that wear uniform for a living. And trying to reclaim some of the lost rest and recovery is imperative. Now, the application of this product is as simple as putting on headphones and a sleep mask. As you listen to music on each of the programs, there is neuroacoustic software beneath that is tapping into the actual frequencies of your brain, whether to upregulate your nervous system or downregulate. Now, for most of us that come off shift, we are A, exhausted, and B, do not want to bring what we've had to see and do back home to our loved ones. So one powerful application is using the program Power Nap, a 20-minute session that will not only feel like you've had 2 hours of sleep, but also downregulate from a hypervigilant state back into the role of mother or father, husband or wife. Now, there are so many other applications and benefits from this software, so I urge you to go and listen to episode 806 with CEO Jim Poole. Then download Newcom, Nucalm, from your app store and sign up for the 7-day free trial. Not only will you have an understanding of the origin story and the 4 decades this science has spanned, but also see for yourself the incredible health impact of this life-changing software. And you can find even more information on newcalm.com. Welcome to the Behind the Shield podcast. As always, my name's James Gearing, and this week it is my absolute honor to welcome on the show firefighter, missionary, and the man behind the Williams key, Trevor Williams. Now, in this conversation, we discuss a host of topics, from the missionary work that led Trevor and his family overseas, his personal experience in the Haitian earthquake as a civilian, his journey into the fire service, forcible entry, innovation, entrepreneurship, joining the special operations team that responded to Haiti years prior, and so much more. Now, before we get to this incredibly powerful and important conversation, as I say every week, please just take a moment. Go to whichever app you listen to this on, subscribe to the show, leave feedback, and leave a rating. Every single 5-star rating truly does elevate this podcast, therefore making it easier for others to find, because this is a free library of 850 episodes now. So all I ask in return is that you help share these incredible men and women's stories so I can get them to every single person on planet Earth who needs to hear them. So with that being said, I introduce to you Trevor Williams. Enjoy. Well, Trevor, I want to start by saying thank you so much for connecting on social media and for coming on the Behind the Shield podcast today.
Thank you, James. I've been looking forward to this. I'm glad we were able to work it out.
So for people listening, we are recording now. This is a new thing on the Behind the Shield podcast. And when the video first popped up, there was this majestic beard, which you do not see in the fire service normally. So why don't we start with that? How is it that you were able to play a Viking Halloween last night?
Yeah, we did a great Viking theme, the whole family last night. I've got 2 little baby girls and a wife. And I was able to take advantage of this beard if you're watching this. I've been off of work for a couple months. I had a baby, so I went off on FMLA to be able to spend time with my wife and kids. And then I had a hernia that needed to have surgery. So I'm a couple weeks recovered from a hernia surgery. And in the meantime, I've been growing this beard out. So as a firefighter, you definitely cannot have a beard. At least like a structural firefighter, maybe some wildland you can. But yeah, this is going to have to go once I go back to work. Can't wait to go back to work. It seems like it's been too long, but also enjoying the time with the family here at home.
Now, this is going to be a weird question because you've literally got 2 young children. Because they're what, 10 months apart? Have I got that right?
Just over a year apart.
Over a year, okay. So you're having a lot of sleepless nights at home, but coming from the shift schedule that you have in California, did you notice a difference when you got off shift after a few years of working?
Yes and no. I feel like at the firehouse, sometimes you'll get lucky and you only get 1 call at night, or maybe once in a blue moon you'll sleep through the night. My station is out of West Hollywood, so it's typically very busy at night. There's a lot of nightclubs and things that happen at night that go wrong. So we are up a lot at night over there. But yeah, I'll get lucky from time to time. But coming home with 2 babies that are very needy at this stage, they're both in diapers. It seems like there's less sleep going on. And my wife had a rough delivery, multiple surgeries. She almost died. Like, she had internal bleeding. They had to go back and open her up again to do like exploratory emergency surgery. So she's like, I've had to take care of her along with like 2 crying babies. And then she's had to take care of me with my hernia and then the recovery from that. So there's been some struggles. And I definitely miss like the routine of going into work, working, maybe getting up at night, maybe not, coming home, and then having like no kids and being able to sleep through the night and recover a little bit. So yeah, it's a season. We'll get through it, and we're trying to find our rhythm. But it seems like it's constantly changing, but it's a good thing. Like being a father is a new thing for me, within the last year and a half. So I'm learning to appreciate it, and it's hard work, but it's definitely work you want to be doing.
That's interesting because you got to see that separately. Now you put those 2 together, which is what a lot of us do. I mean, my little boy was colicky. So at the moment I got through the front door, a baby was handed to me and he would cry on and off for 24 hours until, I did the California shift in Anaheim for a few years. So it was, 1 on 1 off and then the 4 or the 6 at the end. And yeah, it was brutal. So you get to see it without that. And another thing, one of my friends, he almost lost his wife to the same thing. She delivered, I think, were discharged, and then she just started bleeding out and almost died. So that's something that a lot of us don't think about, is just because you initially deliver doesn't mean that everything's great. You got to be aware of some of those scary warning signs, because he literally, from what I understand, was hours from losing his wife, which is terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, I found myself in the delivery room with 2 babies, a newborn baby, and then my other young daughter, and they had whisked my wife out without telling me much other than, we got to move her now, going to surgery. And hours of just, oh man, I hope she's okay. Like, and then thinking like, what if she's not okay? Oh man, I have these 2 babies. Like, how am I going to take care of them without a wife? And a lot goes through your head during those times, but luckily, pulled through,
Excellent. Well, we are speaking obviously over Zoom. Where are we finding you on planet Earth this afternoon?
I'm based out of Los Angeles, California, little city called Azusa. So that's where I'm at right now.
Brilliant. Well, you have a very unique early life, so we're going to spend some time there. Let's start at the very beginning. Tell me where you were actually born, and tell me a little about your family dynamic, what your parents did, how many siblings.
Okay. I was born in Richmond, Virginia, and I was the firstborn, so only child for a little bit. My dad at the time was an attorney, and I believe my mom was just taking care of me during the early years. When I was 4, my dad and my mom felt called to be missionaries. So my dad stopped being a lawyer and went to Africa and brought all of us with him to work for a company called World Vision, which is a large nonprofit organization. One of the, I think it's the largest Christian NGOs in the world, and they're in almost every country. So he took us to a country called Zaire. It was called Zaire at the time. It's now the Democratic Republic of Congo. And this was back in 94. So during that time, there were the Rwanda genocides were going on. And Zaire borders Rwanda. So before long, I don't remember it being like bad when we first got there, but not long after, we started to be impacted by that, the Rwanda fighting and the civil unrest, and friends that kind of knew us that were local would come and give us their valuables to hold for them in case something happened to them during those dangerous times. So eventually it got too dangerous for us to continue staying in Zaire, and we evacuated kind of to South Africa, Johannesburg in South Africa, and stayed there for a year while things cooled off in Zaire. Now, during this time, that's when it got its name changed just because of the war that was going on. So by the time we went back, it had been changed to DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. And we were there not long before it was too dangerous to be in Africa whatsoever. So we had been there about 4 years total. And we now legit evacuated to where we go, Connecticut, where my mom had family on that side. But I remember, and I've actually never shared this, but I remember the airplane taking off, and we were like late getting to the airport, and it came back around, landed so that we could get on. It was a big airplane, and so that we could actually evacuate out of Africa. And I remember like feeling really awkward that, like that never happens, right? A plane comes back for you, and just because we're so special or whatever. But no, it was because it was really dangerous, and they just needed to get as many people out as possible. So
what do you remember about that time? I know you were younger, like you said, 4. When I think of that, I actually had a guest, Ishmael Bey, who's from Sierra Leone, so not right there. But when you heard him talk about being an innocent young boy, and they loved hip hop, and he was just having a normal childhood, and then that broke out, and his parents were murdered, and he was forced to become a boy soldier, and truly forced. Either you die or you fight. It's one of the two. You get to see inside some of these horrors. So when you first got there, I'm assuming maybe through your parents' storytelling, because you were so young, was it immediately war torn, or was there a kind of devolution over the years?
I think I was sheltered at first by my parents, because 4-year-old boy, they don't want to expose me to the things they don't have to. But over time, you just see stuff. So you see the military presence, you see guys with guns running around everywhere. We were in Lubumbashi, Zaire, which is more of a city. It's not like the jungle you might think of when you think of Africa, but dirt roads everywhere, but busy houses, buildings, all all the good houses had walls and security around them. And I went to a school, English speaking school called Tessal, where my mom would teach at and bring me as a kid. So the only time I was outside of like a protected area was during like the transport from home to church to school. But yeah, I would see things from time to time. The the time that stands out the most to me was coming home late at night from a friend's house, and my dad was driving, and I think my mom and I were in the back seat. And so we have a gate around our house, or we have a wall with a gate, barbed wire, an unarmed guard. So he's more like a gate opener and does like chores and stuff, and a dog. I guess looking back, the dog wasn't very big. Like I have a huge Cane Corso now. So I'm like, I know what a big dog looks like. And I'm like, my dog probably wasn't going to do much back then other than bark. But coming home late at night, our yard boy opens the gate for us. We're pulling in. It's dark. We have a long, narrow driveway, and my dad just driving us down the driveway to go park. And we hear our yard boy screaming and jumping and trying to get our attention. My dad looks back. He sees 4 guys run in with stuff like weapons and rope and stuff to do us harm and probably rob us and who knows what else. So we reverse out of there, and my mom is like putting our heads down so we don't get shot. Or yeah, my dad too. Like my dad wasn't seeing, he was like driving with his head down. Reverse out of there and leave the premise. And we're like, oh man, we hope his name was Joseph, our yard boy. Hope Joseph's okay. They had like going back the next day, he was okay. He went and hid, didn't get hurt, but they had told him don't say anything, and he did anyway. So he risked his life to protect us, which is great, and got a raise and all that stuff. But that stands out to me, to where there's 4 guys who wanted to hurt us or rob us or whatever, and that stuff like that happens all the time, I'm sure.
What about South Africa? Was that if I've got my dates right, was that pretty soon after the fall of apartheid that you got there?
Yeah, so we got to South Africa it was 96, I want to say. And South Africa was dangerous in its own way, where there's like bad gang violence. And we had these necklaces with like a little panic button. I don't know what they do. I think they call some service, maybe the police come, but we had to wear them all the time because there was a heightened sense of just being in trouble, I guess. We're getting into trouble out of nowhere over there. And it seemed safe, like it seemed more first world culture, but things would go south quickly. And the house that we ended up living in, come to find out afterwards, the family before us had been killed in that house. And I guess nowadays you got to disclose stuff like that. But yeah, we didn't find out until we were already moved in. So
the Carfax for the house.
Yeah, exactly. At least in California, you got to do, I think within 4 years, if somebody died, like you got to report that. So
yeah, I think it's fair enough between ghosts and the biohazard between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just in Johannesburg in February, but I mean, it was around the world, like literally deliberately as fast as we could. While some of the guys did skydive, some of them did marathons, but we went to Johannesburg and then Cape Town. But that was the beginning of this. So we actually got, I think it was 2 days in Cape Town. And it's, again, we'll talk about Haiti in a little bit. It's what I feel with there too. Beautiful, beautiful country. It's just, it's heartbreaking when you see destruction, wars, etc. Because I mean, these places are absolutely gorgeous, and I'm sure Syria has beautiful places. I'm sure Gaza has beautiful places, and now they're reduced to rubble because of fucking human beings.
Yeah, it's terrible. That's how it goes sometimes, though, I guess, and that's why I guess people like you and me and my family are called to help out and shine a little light on the darkness out there,
Absolutely. So you went back to Connecticut. What took you to Haiti?
Yeah, so we went to Connecticut. I was there for a couple years, and when I was 12, my parents felt called to go serve again. And they had actually done some work in Haiti before I was born, as a newlywed couple. So I guess God put it on their heart, like, hey, Haiti needs some help. You guys should go help. And we went. And by this point, I had a sister that was 7 years younger than me, and I have one more sister, but she wasn't born yet. So we're all 7 years apart. Yeah, so we had a beautiful house in Connecticut on 8 acres of land. There's a lake, a river, nice house. Just a really hard place to leave. I had a good community, good friends, and at an impressionable 12 years old, like my whole world was just taken away from me to move to Haiti, which was the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Also going through civil unrest, and just a night and day, like going from a beautiful place to like one of the worst places you can imagine, was devastating to me. So it took me a little bit to come to terms with that. And Haiti's, I guess, so dangerous and violent. You're really like exposed to death. Like as soon as you get off the plane, you can feel it. It's heavy. There's just something in the air over there. If you're like in tune to that sort of thing. And even as a younger kid, like I could feel that. And then I would start seeing stuff. So you'd hear gunfire. You'd see bodies in the streets. Just like a disregard for life, from time to time. On the other side of that, Haitians are beautiful people. They're very nice until they aren't. It's like I have great things to say about the island of Haiti and the people of Haiti, but there's a lot of bad people there too, just like anywhere. But it seemed more condensed in Haiti. There were the most not suicides, kidnappings per capita in the world at the time that I was living there. I think it was 100 a week in the city I was living in. And I had friends kidnapped, and it was just very, like, you'd see crime all the time. And so this, to dive a little deeper if you want, this made my mind make a choice. I can either be afraid all the time, afraid that I'm going to get killed or kidnapped or whatever, something bad's going to happen to me, or I can not be afraid of that anymore over here and try and live a normal life as much as possible. Knowing that any day I could catch a bullet or something bad could happen to me. So I decided to start living without fear, as a pretty young teenager. So at this point now I'm 13 or 14, and Haiti became a completely different place for me. I started enjoying it. I started adventuring, even like in you shouldn't, in places like this. And so I'd come to terms with the fact that I could die at any point. And it seemed like the healthiest way to think. I don't know if it was, especially as like a developing adolescent. But I also think that has followed me throughout most of my life now. And I've been able to reflect on that and have less of a fear of some of the things that could be really dangerous or could really hurt you.
Now, were you in Port-au-Prince or one of the other cities?
Yes, we're based out of Port-au-Prince, which is the capital. And for your listeners, I can talk a little bit about like what Haiti is.
Please, absolutely.
Yeah, so Haiti is um, it's an island that is attached to the Dominican Republic, and together they make up the island of Hispaniola. Um, Haiti's very poor and brown on the map, and the Dominican is lush and green, and you can very clearly see the border and the divide. Um, that island is 565 miles south of Florida and poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. So a lot of people didn't know about Haiti. When we moved there, we were trying to explain what it was to people, and they're like, "Oh, Haiti's like, no, that's something different." Um, but since the Haiti earthquake, which happened in 2010, and we can get into that in a little bit, that put Haiti on the map and almost took it off the map. But now people know what Haiti is and kind of where it is and whatnot.
So I had a unique experience. I'm actually about to go to Haiti again, about 6 weeks from now. But we are going to what the cruise ship comedian referred to as fake Haiti or Jurassic Park. The reason being that I don't know how, but Royal Caribbean, I think, is the only one that goes to this. There's a place called Labadee, and they've basically put, I don't know how many feet of fence, electrified fence around this tiny little peninsula on Haiti. But what is so devastatingly sad is I've traveled a lot of the world. I've cruised quite a bit. I love it living in Florida. Obviously, it's so easy to jump on a ship here. By far, the most beautiful island I've ever seen anywhere near us. And so the potential for it to be a beautiful tourist destination with a lot of money coming in is huge. But again, because of people and I worked with a couple of guys, Johnny and Eddie, when I worked in South Beach. If you look down South Beach in Florida, the chairs, umbrellas, everything are all the same company, Boucher Brothers. And I was kind of managing one of the areas and worked with those guys, and they were awesome. And they were from Haiti, and not too long before I met them, they were in Haiti. But they were talking about Papa Doc and Baby Doc, and again, the tyranny. A few people making a huge amount of money while watching their people kill each other and starve to death. So this is what's so sad. And I don't know if you have any response to this, but it seems to me like the island of Haiti itself, being so close to Florida, potentially could make all their money from Americans just jumping on ships and going over there and exploring their island, and respectfully, hopefully. But because of the unrest, because of the abuse of the people and what it's created, it's put this barrier to entry of it actually being able to solve all its problems, which would be this tourist commerce. But until obviously they get control of the violence, they're never going to be able to get that tourism. So it's this real kind of double-edged sword. But the solution is, as you said, 500 miles away. But the unrest caused from the oppression of its people for years and years and years has resulted in the fact, and I asked someone once, and they were like, only when some sort of military goes in there and helps them stabilize again are the Haitian people really going to be able to get back on their feet.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There's huge potential for Haiti to be good, but oh man, it's complicated. It's really complicated. And I own a nonprofit organization that builds houses in Haiti for earthquake survivors, and we can talk about that in a bit. But lately, I've been having a lot of meetings trying to figure out what else can we do for Haiti? Like, how can we fix Haiti? And it's a super complicated thing, and there's hundreds of organizations that have been trying to crack this code for years and years. And it's definitely not a simple answer. So, and on top of that, I tried to go to Haiti a couple months back before my kid was born, and I was told you cannot come to Haiti right now. It is way too dangerous. Everything is shut down. People aren't even going to work. Like they'll be killed if they're seen, like that sort of thing. And I'm like, oh man, this is really bad. Like we're like at a standstill with Haiti. Like at least Labadee is doing good, but I don't know the real Haiti, it's terrible. It's really, really bad and sad and unfortunate. So yeah, I've been trying to figure out what to do with that. And it's a big, big problem.
Yeah. One of the guys I just interviewed about 3 weeks ago, he Green Beret, I think, if I got that right. They were literally on the plane, a plane or helicopter. Um, that was, I think it was a plane because they were literally taxiing towards the runway to go to Haiti for an invasion to stabilize Haiti. This was, I think 30 years ago or something. He was a young Green Beret then. And then they literally kind of ground to a halt and they were told, yeah, operation's off. So the US was about to go over there a few decades ago and try and stabilize it itself. But obviously that never happened for whatever reason. I know it's a tricky thing to go into someone else's country and say we're here to fix everything. But yeah, I mean, while we're, we'll get just to the death toll from the earthquake alone, but I mean, I wonder what the death toll is just from all the violence as well. I mean, so close to us has got to be something that we can do in 2023 if we're responding to all these places a lot further away from us, and we're ignoring the Haitians that are on our shores.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things you gotta like, hopefully, like maybe technology helps improve our abilities to help, with the Starlink and whatever, just I don't know. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about it lately and trying to figure out how to create jobs for Haitians, how to just make it a little bit better, and not one person or one organization is going to fix everything, but I think when enough people get involved, that's when you start to see those changes.
Absolutely. Well, I know you spent a few years in Haiti. What brought you back to the US then?
So while we were in Haiti, there was a president named Aristide, and he was a bad guy. Not as bad as Papa Doc and Baby Doc, but another just bad leader who's taking advantage of his position. And it got to the point where he was ousted and the government was overthrown. There was civil unrest, like there always is. And he had to leave the country. I think he went to Africa somewhere. But in the meantime, he was supplying gangs with like money and weapons and having them hurt Haiti and just make Haiti an even worse place because he was angry. Um, and so it got really bad, even worse for all of us that were still living in Haiti. So we had to evacuate Haiti, and I was 15 now at this point. There were roadblocks everywhere, burning tires. Haiti is mountainous down to the ocean. So you can, if you're up high, you can kind of see a lot of what's going on. So you'd see pillars of dark smoke going off as they're setting tires on fire and creating roadblocks so you couldn't get through. Everybody had weapons out in the street. It looked bad. They'd make roadblocks even out of like dead bodies and stuff to try and keep you from getting where you wanted to be. So yeah, we had to leave. Got out of there, ended up in California, actually. It was supposed to be a quick, hey, let's go to California while things cool off in Haiti, and then we'll go back. So like a 6-month thing was what we speculated. And we ended up in Monrovia, which has a World Vision headquarters. And they decided to use my dad as part of a new World Vision project in the meantime. So 6 months turned into 2 years, and we stayed in California longer than expected. At this point, I am like almost an adult, starting to decide what to do with my life. Pretty soon after getting to California, I knew I wanted to be a firefighter. Like people at that age, people were asking me, "Oh, what do you want to do?" Firefighting was along the same lines as helping as a missionary. It's very similar. You're helping people on their worst day, and you're able to, be light in the darkness and continue to just be a good person in these scenarios. So I went to my local fire department and I asked about how do I become a firefighter? And they said they had an Explorer program. And for listeners who don't know what that is, that's a kid that can go and train with the fire department to see if it's what they really want to do. They get exposure to the training, the firehouse culture. They eventually go through a little fire academy so that they can start staying the night and going on calls and doing ride-alongs. So I did all that. I went and I was, pretty much as soon as I got to California, I was like 15 and a half, and they allowed me to start training. And I was a mess at first. My hair was long and I had bracelets and necklaces, and I was, straight out of Haiti. So they had to square me away a little bit. But you wear a uniform and you shine your boots and you just learn all the proper etiquette of the fire service. So I was doing that I did that as long as possible. But when I turned 18, my family was like, all right, we're ready to go back to Haiti. And I was like, cool, I want to stay here. Like, I'm established again and I'm 18, like I'm an adult. So they ended up leaving me to go back to Haiti without me. And I stayed here, and to pay the bills, I started working construction. So I got involved with a couple different construction crews, and eventually ended up as a carpenter, specifically doing finished carpentry as a door and lock installer. And that'll come into play with some other things here later. But I was doing that to pay the bills, and doing the Explorer program, doing my fire science classes, started going to college, getting all that stuff knocked out, became an EMT, did part-time EMT, did the state fire academy through a school out here called Mount San Antonio College. And then once I got that, I was able to start applying for small departments locally out here. A lot of big departments have their own academy, but the small ones just ask that you have a state academy. So I was able to get hired with a volunteer fire department out here, and there's only 2 of them in the LA area. So one I got hired with was called Sierra Madre Fire Department, single station in a small city, but they would run with LA County, which is the department I'd been training with. They used all the same equipment as LA County. So it felt like a really good stepping stone for the department I wanted to be working for. Meanwhile, hustling, trying to survive in LA and trying to pay the bills, super busy, young adult. And not long after my family moved back to Haiti, I decided I should probably go visit them. I hadn't been back to Haiti in 5 years. And I had set up an opportunity to where I could help the United Nations with a new fire program. So this was going to be like a good way to visit my family, to kind of build my resume a little bit, to be back in Haiti. And I had planned to go to Haiti for about a month and just do that for a little bit. So this was in early January of 2010. I got to Haiti a few days before the Haiti earthquake, just out of happenstance. And I think it was definitely for a reason, looking at the big picture. But I was in Haiti a couple of days before this big earthquake hit. And I was supposed to do an interview with the United Nations the day of the earthquake, during the time of the earthquake, unbeknownst to anybody. The day before, I realized I was kind of wasting my time not doing this interview as soon as possible, because I'm only in Haiti for a limited amount of time. I want to be able to be a valuable asset, and teach and train the people that I was there to help. So I called the UN. I was like, hey, do you mind if I come in early and do this interview? I just want to get it out of the way and hopefully get to work sooner. And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. Come on down. So did the interview the day before the earthquake now. And had I had been in that building during the time of the earthquake as planned, I most certainly would have died. That building completely collapsed. It's called the Christoph building. 300 people died, and everybody died that was in that building. So dodged a bullet there, and that's something that it doesn't haunt me, but I'm great. It's like I got a second chance. And we can talk about that in a little bit. But to talk about the earthquake, if you want me to dive into that.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why I remember that so clearly, I was working for Orange County Fire in the Orlando area by that point. And when we're in school in England, we don't learn Spanish, we learn French. So I speak basic French. I wouldn't say I'm even close to fluent, but a lot of times in Orlando, there's a lot of Haitian communities. People would be like, these Haitian men and women would be like blown away because this pasty English dude started speaking French to them, not Creole, but French. Yeah. So when the earthquake happened, I proactively reached out to our chiefs, like, hey, are we sending anyone? I know there's USAR teams, but it's devastated there. It's on our shores. And basically they dragged their fucking heels, what they did. They finally, a few days later, put out a kind of, questionnaire almost. Okay, who would be interested if we did? Do you speak French? I signed up straight away. And then it was very strange because we were pulling USAR teams back out when they were still finding people alive in there. So I'll kind of get your perspective on that. So not only had I been aware of Haiti and Haitian people, years prior working with the two lads, but now, really did try and get out there. And I just had Timmy Gleason on the show, who's Florida Task Force 2, who was one of the people that responded. So walk me through, it was January 12th, 2010. So walk me through the events prior, if you want to put some kind of observations of building construction prior to it, and then we'll walk through not only the tragedy of all the Haitian people, but obviously the near miss for your own family as well.
Okay. Yeah. So before the earthquake happened, I was visiting different places in town, and I actually was paying attention to the building construction. At this point, now being a carpenter and fire training, and we pay attention to those sorts of things. We're living in Haiti before I did not really at all. And I was like looking around, I'm like, oh man, like I don't even feel safe in this building. And the way that these houses are built is unreinforced concrete. So like no rebar or very, very minimal rebar. And these houses are not up to any code whatsoever. They're just slapped together as cheaply as possible because nobody has money. And then they're like built on top of each other up the mountain. So it's just a domino effect if anything were to happen to any of, those structures. So they're just barely hanging on as it is. And Haiti had never experienced a significant earthquake in recent times, at least. So that was never a concern. It's always like hurricanes and flooding and disease. Like that's the things you worry about when you go to Haiti and crime. But nobody's thinking about an earthquake. And another reason I did that interview a day early is our plans got canceled the day before, and we're supposed to get on a boat and go to like one of the beaches and stuff. And the waves were like really bad and like uncharacteristically large that day. And to the point where like it wasn't safe to go out in a boat, and that never happens. So something weird was already like brewing, in the environment somehow. And I haven't looked into that, but that was my observation. And the day of the earthquake, I was down in the town in Port-au-Prince at an orphanage, and my family wasn't with me. I had some friends with me, but we were helping out at this orphanage. There's 110 kids, and I was on the second floor on the balcony when the earthquake started. And initially, I don't even have like a good earthquake radar. Even living in California, like I hadn't been in anything real significant either. And so it starts rumbling, like the ground starts shaking. But that happens in Haiti when like Big Mac trucks drive by and stuff like that. So that was my initial thought, like, oh, big truck's coming. And then it gets worse. and it starts shaking even more. And there was actually an American paramedic who she owns this orphanage with her husband. And she's like retired, older than me, but more experienced. And she knew it was an earthquake. So she yells earthquake. And I'm like, oh shoot, earthquake. Okay. Okay, what do I do? Like, so I stayed where I was, and I'm like, there's kids everywhere that like, we got to keep these kids safe. The floor that I'm on is all special needs kids. Why they're on the second floor instead of the first, I don't know, but they're up there. And I just decided, like, I'm going to hang on, and I'm going to try and keep my body in the safest place and like feel this out. I don't know how long it's going to go on for. All these thoughts are going through my mind in like a half second, right? So I look over the balcony, I see a pickup truck down below. I was like, okay, if this building starts collapsing, I'm going to jump on that truck. It'll break my fall a little bit. It's got rubber tires and shocks, and I think I'll be okay. Meanwhile, other houses are coming down. Like we start to see like housing collapse, dust. It's loud. It's violent. People are screaming now. And the earthquake went on for 39 seconds, which seems like an eternity. After 5 seconds, it's not fun anymore. And all the last 5 minutes of me telling you about what was going through my head, that happened in the first like 2 seconds. So it seems like it's going on forever. And this was a 7.0 earthquake, and it was almost dusk. So this was happening around, I think, maybe close to 4:00. So it was towards the end of the day. Anyway, the earthquake stops. Our building had not collapsed. There's cracks all over the walls. Everything that could fall down had fallen down, including most of the kids. And I was like, all right, we got to get everybody out, start picking up all the special needs kids. And these kids are like severely handicapped. Like, you don't even see this in the States, but are you familiar with hydrocephalus?
Yes.
It's like the enlarged heads and stuff like that. Really weird to see, because it's something that we can like address early on in first world countries. But in Haiti, it gets bad because these kids' heads just grow as like there's buildup in the fluid, I think, in the heads and stuff. So there's a lot of kids like this, and we're carrying these kids down, and trying to get them like in safe areas. And then there's kids who can't walk, and so that was our first priority, just getting all the kids out and out of a collapse zone, because the house could still fall, and we were surrounded by a wall that could still fall. And before long, we started getting these aftershocks, and these aftershocks were like 5.0. So they're still significant as well. And they would bring down the buildings that were barely hanging on after the 7.0 had like messed them up, and there were hundreds of aftershocks over the next couple of weeks. So we stayed sitting on the ground in a collapse free zone as safe as possible. And just waited. Like, we didn't know how bad it was at that point. I didn't know where my family was. None of the cell phones were working. There's probably 1 million people trying to make phone calls and text messages on top of all the like repeater towers having fallen down. So yeah, communication was like out the window. I knew my dad knew where I was, so I waited for him. I'm like, hopefully he shows up and comes and gets me, because I don't want to like just start wandering. Like, I wanted to go help, but at the same time, 110 scared kids with needs, like, I'm like, okay, they need me here to help out with everything that's going on. But the like EMT and the firefighter inside of me was like, I gotta go pull people out, I gotta go, like, time is of the essence. But it wasn't a right thing for me to just leave the scenario I was in and go out in the dark with like no tools or knowledge of what really had happened. And at this point, nobody knew the severity of the earthquake. Like, America didn't know, Haiti didn't know. We just had all experienced it at that point. And I think, to throw some figures out there, and they've changed. So I don't think anybody really knows like how many people died, but 300,000 was the common number. 300,000 people died during the earthquake, which is largest natural disaster in modern history. Like even the tsunamis and stuff didn't kill that many people.
Well, it's a small population too, isn't it? So percentage wise, it has to be definitely the worst tragedy of any country for that small, like half of an island to lose 300,000 people.
Yeah. So there's 7 million people in the island of Haiti. And I think most of those people, at least half of those people are in the capital or the capital and the surrounding cities. On top of that, 1 million more people were injured and left homeless. So everybody was impacted. Everybody knew somebody that died. We'll get to that in a sec. But eventually my dad showed up, and he had like this look of devastation on his face. He pulls me aside. He's like, "Hey, Trevor, I need to talk to you." He said he went back to the apartment that my mom and my two sisters were at, and it had completely pancaked down, completely collapsed. It was 5 stories. They lived on the bottom floor on the edge of a mountain. And he told me like there's no survivors. He didn't tell me they were dead, but he told me what he saw, and like that it did not look good. And I was like, it obviously caught me by surprise. In my head earlier, I'd kind of been joking, like, hope everybody's okay. You know, like I didn't know the severity of what truly had happened. And so I refused to believe initially that they had died. And I went with my dad. He had a vehicle, and we slowly made our way up the mountain. And you're already like off-roading before the earthquake. The roads are just bad in general. A lot of dirt roads, a lot of potholes. Now there's walls collapsed everywhere. There's dead bodies because people will find somebody and drag them out into the street, and because they're dead. If they're alive, they're trying to get treatment. But there's lots of obstacles. So we made our way up the mountain, but very slowly, to my dad's pastor's house. And up in the mountains, it's safer. They were less impacted by the earthquake. So I don't think any of the houses up in the mountains, for one, they're like high up in the mountains, but one, they're better built, and they're owned by people with the money to have a nice house that can be better built. So we stayed up there, and I obviously could not sleep. I'm thinking about my family. Anytime I start to doze off, another aftershock hits and wakes me up. And we're also all thinking, like, was the 7.0 the worst earthquake, or was that like a preliminary one for like another even bigger one? Or are we going to get another 7.0? Or like nobody knew what was going to happen. So that was scary. But all night long, I'm thinking, we got to get my family. We got to go find them. Like, what if one of them is still alive? You know, like, I hope they're all still alive. So I'm thinking like, all right, we need supplies, we need water, shovels, maybe body bags for other people that we might find, you know, and like just trying to stay hopeful and trying to keep my mind like focused on like the right things. And as soon as the sun started to rise, I was up, and I'm like, all right, come on, Dad, we got to get down the mountain. We got to go dig, you know, we got to do something. And he's like, he's a very wise guy, like smart man, calculated. At this point, he's the director of World Vision Haiti. So he's in charge of all of World Vision. And he's like, no, Trevor, we got to eat. We're going to need our strength today. And I was like, okay, all right, you're right. So I'm like trying to force down a little bit of food. And then while we're eating, my dad starts talking about funeral plans for the family. And that's when it like just crushed me. I'm like, oh man, he really believes that they're dead. And I had to like excuse myself from the table. I got up, I walked over to this balcony that was overlooking all of Haiti. And I realized I hadn't seen Haiti in the daylight yet, especially not from that vantage point up in the mountains. And it was such a vivid memory in my mind, seeing Haiti for the first time after the earthquake, where it was just total devastation. Like the sun is coming up, so you're getting like this dark red sun like piercing through, like there's fire everywhere. I guess the collapse like caused a bunch of fires, so you'll see like smoke headers, sun piercing through. There's still like a haze of dust in the air from all the collapses, and then you can hear wailing, like just people are just so distraught and crying. And Haitians are very emotional people, but I think anybody would be in that scenario. But they're very, very vocal and singing, and you'd hear singing too. But a lot of crying and sobbing. And yeah, that's when it hit me like in my soul, where I was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. Like the whole island just got devastated, and it's a lot bigger than I thought it was. And we still didn't have numbers. But that's when I started to cry. Like that, I'd been like holding back, trying to be strong for my family and stuff. And then that's when it got me. It's about to get me right now too. Anyway, yeah. So at that point, we not soon after that, we started heading down the mountain. And I remember seeing people like just covered in debris walking up the mountain with like a suitcase, and then other people bloody or whatever holding clothes walking down the mountain. Like people didn't know where to go or what to do. And but there was like a common ground, even though I was like American and different from the Haitians. Like we all shared this similar experience. So at that point, we're brothers and sisters in this big event. Excuse me one sec.
No worries, brother.
It doesn't always hit me, but this time it is. So.
Well, good. I mean, this is a natural emotional response to, especially, I mean, so many of us have emotional responses to something seemingly far less acute. But I mean, you're talking about absolute devastation, near death. You know, you think you've lost your family at that point. You're watching, you know, obviously the aftermath of hundreds of thousands of people losing their lives and homes. You know, it's a pretty significant event that I'm sure is going to, you know, raise emotions till the day you leave this planet.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. All right, next part. This isn't even the most emotional part. So at this point, I don't know if my family's alive or not. And our plan is to go to my dad's office, the World Vision headquarters, and grab some supplies so that we can go dig. And to share about my family a little bit, my mom is in her late 40s at this point. My sister is 14, and my youngest sister is 6 or 7 years old. So very young. So we get to my dad's office, and we go in the front gate, and we park, and we get out. And I start, like, it's game time. Like, I start looking for stuff I can grab, shovels and water and stuff. And somebody yells, "Hey, your family's here." And it didn't really register with me at first. And my family had made it. They had been dropped off in the back gate. And they were all alive. Dang it, it's getting me. Oh man. All right. So yeah, they were all alive, and they were covered in debris, and holding each other, helping each other walk. And my mom was barefoot, my youngest sister was barefoot, and my youngest sister was being held by my other sister, who had only one with shoes on, the 14-year-old. The youngest one couldn't see. She had debris that she had caught all in her eyes and stuff. But They were all alive, and we ran to each other and